Hello and welcome back. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be connecting with someone new on the podcast for you guys to meet today. Mystic Bruna. You say Bruna, yes? Oh my God, I don't want to butcher the pronunciation. Bruna.
I was thinking the same about your name too. I was like, it looks simple.
But it's not at all. I know I always get Vika or Vika, but like I'm always like Vika. Like one of my best friends calls me Pikachu, like Pikachu.
Okay.
So was like Pikachu. Where yours too, I'm like Bruna. Whereas I feel like most people would totally butcher the pronunciation of your names. It's like
Oh, I've heard everything.
everything. Yeah. I would imagine it's like that Starbucks situation that I always
I
get, right? They just like
I
can't
was
figure
just
it
gonna
out.
tell you that. Like the names I've heard at Starbucks being called out, I've literally been called Brown,
Brown.
Roberta, Brenda. Like it's not even close.
Where are you grabbing these? Mine at least are close. I get Bika with a B. I get Mika with an M. Or if they actually do happen to get the like the spelling, it's like Vika. Or I'm like, yep, Vika, sure. Yep, that's me. But
Yeah,
yours are
I
like
get Bruno.
completely brown.
Bruno.
Bruno. Bruno.
Which I'm like,
It's
you
an A.
guys,
It's an A, guys. It's
it's
a
a
big old
feminine
A.
name.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it, but like, let's anyway.
So I'm
Also,
glad you
I
understand my
apologize.
pain.
I do. I apologize. They're doing some stuff upstairs, so
Can't
hopefully
hear
you can't
anything.
hear anything. Okay.
You're good. You're good. I can't hear anything, which is so funny because we rescheduled our first one because they decided to like jackhammer concrete saw, rip up the parking lot like the night before. It was like, oh, we're doing this. And I was like, kidding me.
Yeah, that was me on Monday. They were doing the flooring on Monday, and I was like, I'm so sensitive to sound. So I'm like, oh
Ditto.
my God, like I don't know how to function, but we should.
Right? The nervous system intensity. Oh my gosh. So you get me. Oh my gosh. So I'm so excited to have you on because we discovered each other through my summit that just happened. And you just appeared in my life. And I went onto your Instagram and I was like, I love her. I literally love you. Like, hello, hi. Please come on my podcast.
That's so funny because I think I told you that I originally found you from a Hades Moon article when
That's what it was. Yes.
I was looking up all kinds of Hades Moon stuff because, of course, I have that placement. And I read the blog post and I was like, oh, this is so well written. Like, who wrote this? And then that's how I got introduced to all of your stuff. And it was right before your summit. So then I joined the summit. And of course, then went to your Instagram, followed you on Instagram. And I too was like, I want to be
Right. It was
your
like instant, like, this girl's gonna be my new bestie. And
friend.
I don't even care if you don't want to be. So I'm so glad it was mutual.
Yeah.
I love when these like Instagram mutual friends happen because over the last, I would say 3 years since the start of like the madness, the amount of soul friends that have appeared through Instagram and TikTok, I'm like, how is
Yeah.
this happening?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think it's also because, like, at least for me, I was like, okay, well, I know she speaks my language because of the content that you post. And because I know we're both intuitive. So it's like, you can just sense the energy of a person like immediately. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is like someone that would easily get along with everything. So
Yeah,
I
I felt it
manifested
too.
it.
Yeah, we had that resonance. So for everyone listening, okay, on Instagram, guys, just you're going to go down this rabbit hole anyway. Mystic Brew, amazing, beautiful.
BRU, the play
BRU,
on
yes,
word. Yes.
really good to tell them that because they might go down and type like BREW. No,
Right.
Mystic Brew, like Bruna.
Yes.
And I want you to tell my people, who are you? Like what are you doing? Tell them your magic.
Ooh, such a deep, layered question.
Not simple at all.
Right. Who am I? I am who I am, and I'm still figuring that out. I think that's part of the journey for me. First house stellium. So it's like there is a lot of energy when it comes to my identity. Like, who actually am I in this lifetime? Who am I showing up as? And anyone who's known me for like a length of time can vouch for this, sort of like seeing me pivot through all of these different sort of not necessarily personalities, because I think the root of who I am has been consistent, but I've allowed myself more so over the last maybe like 6 or 7 years to really like release any limitation or restriction that I placed on myself as far as like who I am. Because I'm heavy earth. So
Mm.
like I love predictability. I love stability. I love all of that. And I think at some point it leaked into the way I define myself. And so it was like my first big girl job. I was like, well, this is my job, like for the rest of my life. And this is who I'm going to be. And lo and behold, that's not the truth. And so at the core of who I am, I think I'm someone who is just highly curious. I ask a lot of questions. I am fascinated by everything. Like I love the mystery of life. And even though I know I'll never really know the answers of what's going on, I'll never stop investigating it. You know, I have a journalism degree for a reason. Um, and so I have made it my mission over the course of time to be the person I always needed, which is someone who is safe, someone who is trustworthy, someone who is fun, someone you want to be around, who you can learn from just by being around them, and also someone where you can just like let all your guards down for a second without feeling like it's going to be used against you.
And
So,
that's so needed. Like, my goodness, I'm
yeah.
just thinking back to all the toxic relationships with women, I had until I hit
Mm,
17, 18, and I literally stopped talking to everyone. And, that cultivation of friendships I've made since 18 years old of people like you, like what you're just describing of there's no fear of what I say or how I say it or anything. It's just a safe space of divine feminine, like love with all
yeah.
those friendships. Mm.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I noticed recently, like maybe the top of the year, um, so much of my trajectory has been focused on romantic relationships. So I used to run a blog called The Problem with Dating for 10 years. And it was like, I started it when I was like 23. It was my first time being like single. And that's when like dating apps really started. And I was like at my big girl job. So I was like, career driven here in LA, trying to find love, like all these things. And it was atrocious. Like it was just the worst. And I needed an outlet, as a creative person, you always need an outlet. So I created this blog because writing has always been that thing for me. So it became its own sort of entity. And that led into other gigs and things. I did a dating column for Playboy for a few years. I posed for Playboy. Like it was a whole like dating relationship. So that was my identity for a bit. And then it was funny because 2020 happened and things really shifted, I think, for everybody. And for me, it was lingering. And I think 2020 sort of solidified it where I knew this isn't where I'm at anymore, And it wasn't like I think people assumed, oh, she probably got into a relationship. She doesn't want to like do. And it wasn't even that. It was just like I wasn't satiated with what I was putting out into the world. And I kept feeling so pigeonholed. Like, yes, it's called The Problem with Dating, but the conversation I always wanted to have was, what if you're the problem? But
Hmm.
it was always sort of like made into this dialogue of, well, what do you do on a first date? And what if they don't text you back? And da da da. And I was like, oh my God, who cares? Like, who cares? You're missing the point.
Yeah.
And so the conversation I always wanted to have that I was trying to sort of Trojan horse through the vehicle of dating, which I still use dating because I think intimate relationships are where we face ourselves the most.
100%.
And yeah. So then I birthed Return to Self,
Mm.
which was like a divine download. The name came to me at a coffee shop originally as a retreat. I wanted to host retreats. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to call them Return to Self because it's going to be focused on coming back to ourselves, blah, blah, blah. 2020 happens. I'm like, well, I guess that's not fucking happening right now. So then I decided let's just make this the business name and kind of cultivate it around that. At the same time, like me doing card readings started to come up, and we can talk about that in more depth, but it was all just so weird, but not, because of the way the world works. So long story long, so much of my focus has been on romantic relationships and sort of the trauma and the wounding that can come from that. And it wasn't until maybe the last year and a half or so that I really started to realize, wow, there's a lot of wounding I'm still holding on to from other women. And I started to see that specifically with my friendships with other women, how I just didn't trust anybody. And granted, my stellium is in Capricorn. So, like, trust is not something that comes easily. However, I had to sort of face a shadow pattern of mine, which is assuming that everyone is untrustworthy, and specifically with women, and going down that rabbit hole of where is that wounding stemming from? What experiences am I unconsciously holding on to? And it really came up to a point when I actually did host my first retreat in Costa Rica earlier this year. It was all women. And I know that I tend to attract women, and I love that because, again, I want to be the person I needed. So with other women, I really get to be that person. And it was funny that the conversation that kept coming up between all of us, because none of these women knew anybody. Everyone was new to sort of this group, but everyone left as friends afterwards. And that was a common conversation that kept coming up, was girls who would bully us and tease us as kids, girls who would pretend to be our friends and then go try to be with our boyfriends, mother wounds, like so many wounding around the feminine that was sort of overlooked because the focus was constantly on the masculine wounding that was happening. Yeah. So I think part of that is also just that collective cycle. I think for a lot of feminines, we focused on the masculine wounding first, father wounds, exes, whatever. Of course, this is like a heteronormative sort of example, but then that moving into the feminine so that the masculine can start healing their shit, because now we can hold the container for it because we did it. It's just fucking crazy.
It is. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking of like so much of this has been coming up lately about the feminine wounding. And, it was similar for me. It was, probably 5, 6 years ago, maybe. What year is it? Maybe 7, 8 years ago, even, where I started realizing I had such an abandonment wound with women.
Mm-hmm.
There was one friend particularly that, it was so hard to release, what happened and the abandonment that happened there, until I really realized, like I was definitely part of the problem. Like you mentioned, like it took me years to realize I was half the person in that relationship that destroyed it. Right. But it led me back to the amount of women in my life that had betrayed, abandoned, the fear that was there even before the abandonment wound, was a psychological aware wound. Even as a child, it was like, this was from many lives, right? And then the stuff with my mom, and I was just like, well, damn, like it got to a point where I had no female friends around me. I didn't really have any male friends either. I was in that moment where you lose all your friends and you're like, none of you fit with me anymore. And you're just alone, and you're like, okay, I have to call in this whole brood, other than, my true best friends that will stay with me. There's 4 of them. I think there's 4 or 5. They'll stay with me till the end. Yeah. But the new ones that have come in, like I had to make that space, and realizing again, yeah, I didn't trust anyone either. Right. That Hades moon signature was coming through hard. Like I didn't trust women at all.
Well, the Hades moon. And then I think I told you too, I have a T square with Pluto, my moon, and Venus. Yeah. So and I know if anyone's listening and you're like, what the fuck are you even saying? It's like, it's a very volatile aspect in astrology that I didn't even know existed until last year. And I was literally with my astrology deck and I asked, what am I not seeing within my chart that needs my attention? And I literally got a T square card and I was like, I don't even know what this word is. And so I started, again, with my curiosity. I love researching. So I started looking into it, looked at my chart, and I was like, well, there it is. And of course, the planets that are being activated through that aspect are like the theme of my life. And so it's absolutely layered and deep. And I too think stems beyond just this lifetime. And feminine wounds are very psychological. I
Mhm.
feel, at least I feel that way. I like the masculine wounding that I've experienced. That's not to say it doesn't affect you psychologically, emotionally, whatever else. But in my experience, it's felt very like, how do I even explain this? It's felt like the masculine wounding broke my heart, but feminine wounding broke my spirit. It was like it was so mischievous in its own way. And I think that speaks to the feminine shadow.
Mhm.
And once I sort of gained more insight on that, I was like, oh, this is fucking me up more than I think I realized. Because it's not just like jealousy and competition and whatever else. It's like, I trusted you deeply. And that trust was betrayed in a way that's almost like a sisterhood was broken. That's a different type of trust than a lover. I'm not saying one hurts more than the other. It's just different, which means it's a whole other different healing journey.
You're so bang on. And I think about this all the time when I'm thinking about this energy. I watched this documentary all about, the witch trials and stuff. This was probably in 2020, just like going down a rabbit hole. And the presenter was saying that the highest percentage of people who said someone was a witch was a woman. It was woman on woman crime. And it was usually with family, friends, and close relationships. It wasn't generally like a random person being like, oh, Susie over there, I don't know, is a witch. It was like sister on sister, mom on daughter. And it was the highest percentage of people who accused and had, these horrible endings for these women. And I think about that just like living in our DNA all the time of this women on women crime of betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like sorting that out now.
Why do you think that is, though?
I don't know. Like when I think into it, it really brings me back to, being a young kid, and like everyone listening knows my big like Leo signature. So of course I was always in the popular group, right? And I was always, South Node Leo too. I was always violating my boundaries to be in the popular group. I never belonged there and I never fit in there, but I was always, pretending to fit into that group. And I always think about, there was this one time when I was a kid, and the mean, leader of the group slapped one of my friends. She slapped her across the face for something. I have no idea why. And she slapped her across the face. And I was rattled. And so me being me, I stood up to this girl who still haunts my dreams. Like, go away.
Oh,
But so,
no.
I remember standing up to this girl, and me and my friend standing together, being like, are you all right? And the rest of our group, there must have been like 12 of us in this group, all
Oh,
went with the girl who slapped my friend. They
mm,
all went with her. They didn't say a damn thing. They didn't stand up for her. They weren't like, you just slapped someone, this is wrong. And I remember this like still is like such a core memory of me going and sitting down with my friend at the time. She's sobbing. And I'm like, everything about that was wrong. And I'm the only one sitting here willing to stand up to this person. I remember just being flabbergasted. I must have been in grade 6. So what is that, like 11 years old?
yeah.
And just being absolutely rattled. And I think about that a lot. And just even what happened in the last 3 years of people doing things that don't even align with themselves because they're afraid, or because there's like some sort of violation that's happened of their own energy field, that they do things that are so against us as humans. And I don't know what it really is, but I think about that in relation to, the betrayal of women that happened back then. That's something that really lives with me.
Yeah. I think there's a common theme here. I mean, I don't know. Is your Pluto in Scorpio as well?
It is. Yeah. It's in the first house in Placidus, second house in whole signs.
Of course, it's in your first house. I was gonna say, I feel like collectively, for a lot of us, because we have that Pluto and Scorpio placement, there's huge themes of control and power and authority that are coming up, even in those situations. Like there is some ingrained, maybe unconscious thing that we have when it comes to authority that I think we are meant to sort of shake up and have people question. And for me specifically, authority is like, if anything's going to get me going, it's that, because I grew up, I'm a Lebanese immigrant. I was born in Lebanon. I was born during the war. We fled because of the war. Like, the trauma I like my body and my mind, which I don't even remember have experienced by the age of 1, is insane. And I have a father who is military and conservative and Middle Eastern. So it's like that's its own genre.
Mhm.
And so authority was sort of always a constant cycle for me, standing up to authority, standing up for myself, using my voice, something that I didn't feel comfortable doing most of my life. Like a lot of my childhood was good girl conditioning, like just be a good girl. You need to be pleasant. You need to be polite. You need to do all of these things, which, yeah, I got great grades in school, and every parent teacher conference, they're like, she's a dream. And like my friends' parents always really loved me. But what that also meant was putting up with a lot of shit that I shouldn't have had to put up with because I was too scared to stand up for myself. Now, the weird thing is, I was scared to stand up for myself, but I was never afraid to stand up for other people. Like it was almost like this projection that I felt comfortable with. Well, if I can't do it for me, I'll do it for you, because that's still a little like detached. I won't get in trouble for standing up for myself, but standing up for you is a good thing. So I'll do that. And I also, was part of friend groups where it's so weird to me because I never considered myself popular. Like I always felt like an outcast. I always felt like an observer. Like, what am I even doing here? Do I fit in? I'm so different than everybody else. And yet I'll talk to people years later. Like there was one specific girl I met up for lunch, and this was like after college, and we went to school as kids together. And we were never like super close, but we connected. And I was like, yeah, do you want to grab coffee? And she said, you are the only popular girl that was nice to me. And I was like, I was popular? Like, what are you saying? I don't believe that's true for me, but I'm glad that that's the memory I left you, because I also felt victimized by the same people, even though I called them my friends. And so it was this whole other thing of this deep desire for belonging, and like what you're willing to sacrifice for that. And I think a lot of people, regardless of age and background or whatever, have such a deep desire for belonging that they're willing to sacrifice their values and integrity to have that. I am not, because to me, it's like, if I got to do that, I don't belong here.
Yeah.
It's that simple. And so when friends would enter the mix, that's when it would get really sticky, because it's like you would start seeing things that and I would make excuses a lot for people, like, no, I'm reading into it. No, da, da, da. And you know how that goes. It's
It's
just
all right there.
right. And then the universe is like, Bruna, like, pay attention. And
Yeah.
then, oh, fuck, that's not someone I should be close to.
Right. I think about
Yeah.
that a lot with like from the age of like, I don't know, getting into school basically until I literally cut everyone off at 17, 18, which was also my nodal return. Like I've connected that dot recently
Mm.
and been like, oh, it makes a lot of sense. No, like North Node in Aquarius. Okay, got it. But until that happened, I drew in the exact same cycle of group think, like group energy, the same girls, different schools, like over and over. It was like The same here. Okay, now we'll change them, new school or whatever, same girls, same girls, same girls, until that moment where I was like, what are we doing here? And I had
Yeah.
the same feeling of like, I never belonged, I never fit in. I was in these groups and I was the outcast too. I literally felt like an alien inside of there. I was suicidal at that point because I was so depressed being with these people. I didn't feel like myself. I didn't feel like I belonged. I couldn't tell anybody the emotional turmoil I was going through. And I remember just being in, same situation, same girl, same group, same feeling, same depression over and over and over. And I was like, what the fuck are we doing here? Till it
Right.
got to the point where I was like, you all suck. I'm done with this. Like, I'm done being treated like a bag of garbage. And I just completely isolated. And from that, rebirth happened. But it's so interesting because there's probably people listening right now that are like, I'm still in that right now. I'm still in that cycle. And cutting that cycle is so hard because not only do you have the abandonment wound that's already there, but then if you cut them all out or you end this cycle, then you're alone, which is terrifying.
Right. Right. And it's so rewarding.
So liberating.
Yeah, because I resonate with everything you just said. And I think, I mean, for me, it might be a little different because I am naturally introverted. So which might surprise some people, but I'm just like, I'm very okay being alone. I'm an only child. I grew up thousands of miles away from my family. My friendships were my family. So that sort of breakup within friendships was difficult for that reason. Cause I'm like, I have nobody then, except for the really close friends that managed to stick through time. And at some point, like you were saying, it takes such a toll that the cost was just too high. And I think for me, it starts with, the mental, emotional anguish, which unfortunately, I think I have a very high tolerance for because of my experiences. So what someone might off the bat be like, no, we're not doing this. I tend to just be like, I could handle this for a little longer, and then my body starts shutting down. And when my body starts shutting down and I start feeling the physical ailment of whatever energy I'm choosing to continuously surround myself with, that's when I know this shit has to stop because I'm not willing to live with this feeling. And so it's really scary. It is, you're going to question your decisions. You're going to wonder if you're overreacting, if you're being dramatic, if whatever else, especially if people are used to taking advantage of your boundaries or your kindness. And still, when it's time. And doing that is like everything else. When you release, you create space. And when I created that space and I allowed myself to really like sit and own what it is that I am and therefore desire to be around, that's when I started calling people in. I really feel like my soul group started to form when I was being more open about my spirituality, when I started doing readings, when I started talking about things that really interested me instead of being worried about like people and what they might think about it. Like the astrology thing started at 11, y'all. Like it's been a thing. My best friend in 6th grade got me love spells for my birthday. Like it was, this is a thing that's not just like, oh, now she's it. No, I just didn't openly talk about it out of fear.
Yeah.
And that fear was justified because even when I would post astrology things here and there, immediately people would talk shit. Oh, you believe in that? Oh,
Oh, you're
take
so
my
dumb.
yeah. And I'm just like, girl, bye. Like, if you don't believe in it, that's fine. No one's asking you to, but you don't have to pass judgment on me because this is something that you don't align with. Like that's something that never made sense to me. And I think one of the things, because of all of these experiences, I think people tend to be surprised when they find out that I'm not a bitch. Cause I think just like perception wise, what I've been told is like, oh my God, I thought you were going to be so bitchy. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to lie. I have it in me, but that's not like my nature. That side of me, I call her Lilith, like my shadow.
Mm-hmm.
She comes out for protection. You know, that's the thing that calls her out. If I need to protect myself or someone else, that's when she comes out, and I have zero qualms about it. Like, I am not going to regret it at all. If I say some fucked up shit to you or fuck you up in any other way, you probably earned it, you know, like, because she doesn't just come out for shits and giggles. But I am very mindful of being kind because I know what it's like to receive unkindness. I know what it's like to be teased to the point where you question your life. I know what it's like to try to just want to fit in and belong, and everyone talks to you like you don't deserve to be here. So why would I ever do that to anybody else? So it's really just taking all of my life experiences, and again, circling back to the very first conversation we had, who did little Bruna need that just wasn't around? I'm going to be that fucking person. And I think that's been the most fulfilling and gratifying thing, whether it's through card readings, through shadow chart readings, through conversations with strangers at coffee shops. Like, she's showing up. And I love that. I love that about this journey.
That resonates so deeply. And I just love that. So let's use it as a segue to go into shadow astrology, because you know what I do. And, like, I love that you read in this way, because I think this is how we heal people. Really, when it comes to astrology, it is, and everybody listening knows I hate fluff astrology. I hate pop astrology. I will talk shit about it all day. And I think I was thinking about this morning, of like this violation of astrology that happened, to downplay its magic and its frequency and how it can actually change our lives. So seeing, more astrologers come into my field like you, that are willing to go into the sticky, muddy, mucky places that nobody wants to go. They're not fun. They hurt like hell. But when you move through them, the level of expansion and transformation that happens is like, there's no words for what actually happens when we do this work. So, like, talk to me about your approach to shadow astrology.
Yeah. So I'm not going to lie, doing astrology intimidated the fuck out of me. Like, I had plenty of moments where I was like, no, I don't know enough, or I don't deserve to be here. Like, all of those things. Um, but I pay attention, I pay attention to everything. And I was paying attention to what I would spend my free time doing, what conversations I kept getting into. And it was always around astrology. Like, people think I have this like crazy social life. I'm home on a Saturday night looking up asteroids, like
Ditto.
that,
Ditto.
like that. And I enjoy it, like I really have fun with it. When I learn about new astrology things, like I'm immediately on astro.com, like, oh my God, like, let me see. So my friends were really like kind of mirroring that for me, in a sense where, my first question, as cliche or obnoxious as it might sound, anytime is like, what's your sign? What's your sign? Like, and it's never, people I think tend to assume that it's to pigeonhole them into a certain characteristic or group or whatever. And for me, it's never that, because I know that's not all that you are. In fact, that's like a drop in the bucket of your astrological blueprint. But I am intrigued, because I love when it aligns and makes sense. And so I just noticed that this is clearly a topic I'm passionate about. It's something I talk about with ease. And I know that I'm incredibly hard on myself. And so even with this, there's this unconscious, sometimes conscious limiting belief of, no, I can't do this as a service until I know absolutely everything there is to know about astrology. And at some point you realize, bitch, you're never going to know everything there is to know about astrology, because this is such a vast and deep study beyond belief. Like, people, you really don't know how deep this goes. Like, even the most like sophisticated astrologers are still grazing the surface, like we might get a few levels deep, but it goes so deep. And so I started with like the general astrology stuff. I used to do general birth chart readings. And I noticed I wasn't enjoying it as much. And I was like, what is it that I don't like about this? Why is it not? And I realized that I was just like, anyone can do this. You could go on Cafe Astrology right now, get a free birth chart and read about your sun sign, your moon sign, whatever else. Like,
Yeah.
I wanted to create a niche area that focused on what I'm passionate about. And over time, I've learned that what I've been doing, studying, educating people on is the shadow. Like the shadow has been a constant theme throughout everything, whether I was conscious of it or not, even with the dating stuff. It was really about what are your shadow traits that are coming up at this time because that shit's blocking you. And of course, I'm my biggest case study. So I started with my own chart, and like looking at certain things, learning about different angles and aspects and planets and energies and um, dignities and health and houses and all kinds of stuff. And I just realized like there's a wealth of information here. And if I'm going to choose what avenue I want to use this information to help people, it's going to be with getting acquainted with the shadow. And so I decided to sort of compile what I would look into and called them shadow chart readings. And it was basically like, I'm going to look at your moon. I'm going to look at Pluto. I'm going to look at Venus. I'm going to look at Saturn. I'm going to look at squares. I'm going to look at oppositions. I'm going to look at the things that I would look at in my own chart to help me. Is that the be all end all of your shadow signature? No, but it's the starting point. And so I always tell people this isn't for everybody. You really have to be ready to face yourself. And the gift that this gives you is that. I posted a video recently where I sort of stitched this interview I found that I loved. And this woman was saying, no one can fuck with you when you're honest with yourself. And that's the gift that I hope to give people with these readings. It's not just to talk shit and make you feel bad about yourself. That's the complete opposite. But if all we're talking about is, oh, this and love and light and da da da, that's half of the conversation. You still don't know who you are. You don't know what you're capable of because you're so scared of facing the shit that you're not going to be clapped for. Like this is the shit that everyone tries to just throw on the back burner. Like, what do you mean? I'm not manipulative. Like, I'm not doing. Yes, you are. And you know it. Just own it. And so that way, when it starts coming up and you don't have to be that person anymore. Or if someone comes up to you and be like, that was really fucking manipulative. I know, because I know I can do that, So there's a freedom and there's liberation in being willing to not only face your shadow, but to integrate it, to accept it, to understand this isn't something that you should reject and repress just because it wasn't easy or something that wasn't societally acceptable or acceptable in your home, because it's still coming out and doing whatever it needs to do to get your attention, and usually comes out in your relationships. So I wonder why you keep getting into these cycles and these sort of power dynamics or control dynamics, because you have yet to face your shit. You keep making it about the other person because it's easy. And I'm saying this because I did it, I wrote books about my relationships, and reading them back now, like I honor the version of myself that had the courage to do that. And I cringe because I read it and I'm like, oh, when it's in writing, it's just like in your face, like these are different men in every chapter, but the energy is the same. Like it's just a recycled version of the same lessons. And that's what I hope to give people with these shadow chart readings is sit down with me for an hour. Or if you don't feel comfortable, I also do recordings. Oh, we're burping spirits here. And I will always gently, in the nicest way I can, share this information with you, because again, I know that this can be breeding ground for shame and judgment, and that's not what we're here to do. I'm not here to shame you or judge you, and I don't want you to shame or judge yourself. That there's enough of that in the world. Like we don't need any more of that. What I am doing is lovingly showing you, hey, we all have some shit. So here's some of yours. You know, like these
Mm.
might be some things that you don't consciously know you're doing. And it's not out of nowhere. You're not manipulative because you want to be. Chances are something happened that made you feel like this was the only way to get your needs met.
Yeah.
And so let's figure out why that is, or how we can, even if you don't remember, we don't have to go back there. We can just let it go. Like, is that still what I want to do? No. Can I get my needs met in other ways? Yes. Let's try that. So it really came out of a need for me to, again, integrity is my highest value. So for me, just jumping into the astrology bucket and doing general chart readings, like, okay, yeah, sure. But I just knew that's not what I'm here to do. I'm here, like the shadow, the underworld, the darkness has been where I'm at. I was just too scared to admit it for a really long time because I didn't know what that said about me as a person or how
Mm.
people would view me. But anyone who knows me knows I am someone who values love and expansion and union and growth. It's not coming from a dark and scary place, but it's recognizing that that place exists in all of us. And if we're too scared to go there alone, like I'm not scared, we could go there together and we'll come back out and you'll see you're fine. You know, you can hear this and know you're okay. And then choose how you want to use that information moving forward.
I love that. And I don't remember if it was a podcast I released recently or if I was just talking to someone, but we were talking about that. Like, don't go into these shadow worlds alone. Oh, it was the last episode of the It's Karmic Summit. You know, she talked a lot about going to the underworld. The Stephanie was the one who taught that day, and she is a psychologist, and
Mm.
she's now done the karmic astrology and blends them together. It's amazing. She was like, you know, don't go in there alone. You don't have to go in there alone. Like if you want to and you're prepared, absolutely do your thing. But like that's why we have shamans. That's why we have, you know, these people who are able to energetically hold you and hold space while you go into those places that you're terrified to look, or you know, you need a nightlight because there's just so much in there. So I love that you are really a sacred space holder to say like, take my hands, let's go into the darkness and, you know, get out the shit that's holding you back.
Yeah. Or just sit there and see what comes up, you know?
Yeah.
It's it's scary for sure. I mean, I'm literally afraid of the dark. And I used to be afraid of the dark because I knew I was never alone in the dark. I
Which
just
is
didn't
so
know.
intense.
Yeah. And again, that stems into also just being sensitive and having certain abilities from when I was a child, and that being something you couldn't talk about, you had no awareness of, you had no one to be like, hey, why am I seeing this? Or why am I feeling this? But again, I think so much of my trajectory and also yours from what you've shared is just constant initiations. You know, it's like all these different rites of passage to, since forever, of getting us to a place to be who we are, to help these people specifically with this topic. And I love that psychologists are getting on board with this too. I was initially a psych major. I thought I was,
Not surprised.
yeah, I know, like shocker. Uh, I initially wanted to be like the next Dr. Phil. I had a whole plan at 12.
Wow.
Like I'm going to have a show. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to have a private practice. I'm going to work with, at the time, I really wanted to work either with teens because that was the darkest time for me, or like family counseling because I come from a divorced home and that was a really challenging experience for me, especially as an only child. So again, I wanted to help people like me. And then once I got into college, I took a psych class, which I had started taking in high school. So I was like in it. And then I don't know, one class like freaked me out and I was like, this isn't it. This isn't what I meant to do. And I had like a whole like meltdown because I thought my life was over because my plan was not going to follow through. But I think it was always meant to be that way. I'm kind of glad I didn't go the traditional route because I wonder sometimes looking back if that would have deterred me from embracing the spiritual aspect of it all.
Yeah, I think so. And when you're saying that, I'm thinking about, I went to university originally for archaeology and I wanted to be a historian and archaeologist. Like that was my goal. I wanted to be Tomb Raider. It's not a job, just so everyone knows. Found that out real quick. But, I think about, it was the same for me. I went to my first archaeology class in university and I was like, this is not it. Like, this is not what I was energetically connecting to. This is not it. And I, pulled back. I went into anthropology after that. And I was like, again, this isn't it. And I ended up dropping out of out of university. It's university here. It's college in the US. But I remember just being like so ashamed of myself and like, all my dreams were dashed at that point of something I'm still so passionate about. I'm still obsessed with history and, the mysteries and more sacred history now. But it's the same where it was like, I wouldn't have ended up here because I would have put myself in some sort of very analytical, logical left brain box that would have stunted and shrunk the spiritual. And I think that's for a lot of people, right? The outward society boxes you in to turn off your connection to spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's such a beauty to recognizing the magic that leads you throughout your journey. And when you have that moment, which I had, I think it was either it was the top of this year, where I just got like rushed with this download of why I went the routes I went up until this point. And it was literally like, you did this because you needed this, and you did this because you're taking this. And it was like all the different tools I was getting to build what has become a very massive toolbox of a lot of resources and abilities and things that I can now use for where I'm about to go, which if you ask me what that is, I still don't know, but I know it's something. And so what may seem in the moment like failure for me, where it's like, I left this job. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I'm really lost. Now I'm doing all these freelance gigs and I'm being a flapper for this broker event. And then I'm doing like this solar panel convention. Like, it's just like these random things that you're like, am I just fucking up? Like, am I just completely lost? And you zoom out and you realize like there are certain skills that are being sharpened throughout all of these different experiences, as mundane or like far-fetched and left field as they might seem. Like, it's all serving a purpose. And one thing I know about me with everything I've experienced is there is not a single person you can put in front of me that I can't have a deep conversation with. Yeah. That I know for a fact. And that is a mixture of a lot of different things, some of which is just energetically, like the way I show up. But I think a lot of it also has to do with the experiences I've had that made me comfortable being able to talk to anybody. And I think that's going to serve me in whatever is next in my journey, which is a mystery, but also exciting because it's like I can feel it. I just don't know what it is.
You're on that precipice right now, eh?
Ooh, I am the fool just hanging off the cliff.
That's been my card that I like when I was tapping into the energy of 2023. I'm looking at like the North Node shift. Jupiter was still in Aries. I was like, this year is the Fool. Like, we're all the Fool, and we don't know, like, is there ground underneath that next step? I don't know. We're all just trusting that there is.
So much uncertainty, which I think we also are starting to realize. Well, those of us who are ready to accept and realize that like everything's uncertain and has always been uncertain. Like, certainty is a myth.
It was never there.
Right.
The world had presented and, programmed us to believe that it was. But I love it because though it's terrifying, and I feel like I'm on that precipice right now too. I'm having a very clear picture of where I'm going, but I feel that precipice moment too. Though it's terrifying, it's also absolutely liberating to think that what we thought 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago was reality is completely untrue. So that means we can paint this freaking picture however we want to.
Yeah. And that is scary for a lot of people. I was just talking about that on my IG live last night because I started doing like individual card pulls on IG live every week. And we were talking about freedom and, you know, how that's a topic and something that a lot of people say they want for themselves. But I don't know that a lot of people really sit with what that means, because up until this point, on a collective level, so many people have freely given their freedom away in order to not have to face the responsibility of the choices that they make. And so there's a cost to everything. And I think that's part of it is, yeah, you can choose however you want to live your life. You are not bound by anything unless you actively allow yourself to be bound by this thing. And that's going to require you to take responsibility for whatever decision you make. And what if it all goes to shit? What if it falls flat? Like, will you be able to hold that? You know, that's sort of the fear I feel like comes up for a lot of people. And obviously, there's like socioeconomic things too that can restrict a lot of us from doing things that we feel inclined to do. But that's not to say that we can't start planning or preparing for something different, you know?
I agree with that completely. And I think that's a good message for a lot of people who fall into the victimhood and the victim mentality of like, oh, I can't right now. This is happening. This is happening. Life's very stressful. I don't have the money. I get it. I was there. So, like I get it more than, you know, most people. And I'm sure you know those moments where you're like, I've got nothing. I'm working, you know, 60 hours a week, going to school. Like I get it. But there's always something we can do. There's always a library. There's always, you know, an ability to access the internet, to learn, to start, to begin something. A lot of, you know, people in this world started learning astrology or numerology or whatever it was, whatever their craft is, on pennies, just with passion and just figuring out where can I start, whether it's a website and or Pinterest or whatever it is, you know, they just started studying as much as they could and then learning outside of that. It's like, even right now in my business, I watch a lot of YouTube. Like, I don't know how to do something. Okay. I want to level up my business. YouTube. Okay. I can't afford a mastermind right now because it's 20 grand and I can't do that. Right. Me and YouTube are going to hang out for the next 7 hours instead of Netflix. Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's part of the gift that we have in this time is accessibility. It's just a matter of like, what are you doing with it? You know,
Yeah.
like I'm self-taught with everything. You know, I didn't go get a degree on astrology. I didn't go study astrology. I studied because it fascinated me. So I read books. I followed different astrologers that I trusted and that I felt like really knew their stuff. I studied different forms of astrology to see which one really resonated with me and how I identified with them. I studied through my own chart, you know, seeing does this, okay, well, if I were to interpret my own stuff, this is what I would come up with. Is that true for me? Does that feel true for me? You know, it's just a lot of, like you said, getting out of that cycle of always finding a reason not to and finding at least one reason to, you
Yeah.
know, like, well,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this thing might not be working for me. Like financially, we're all going through it right now. Every single one of us are going through it to very,
Everyone on the planet is going through it right now.
yeah, in many different ways. And I was just telling a girlfriend of mine yesterday, like, part of the comfort I feel with the financial instability of my personal experience is knowing I'm not the only one experiencing this. Like, this is a collective issue, which means it needs to be addressed collectively. And I think that's also something else we are breaking out of is this like individual sort of pressure of, well, I must not be doing enough. I must not be working hard enough. I must be fucking up somehow. No, your situation is being affected the way it is because collectively this shit's not working.
Yeah.
And we're finally seeing that to the point where it's like you can't just blame this or that or whatever. No, the system is rotting. Like the system is not good. And so that is why it's crumbling because we can build something better. We just have
Mm-hmm.
to have the bravery and courage to let go of everything we thought we knew and build again, which is scary. But
Terrifying.
what's scarier to me, at least, is continuing to do what we've always done and end up the same way. Like, I do not believe that we have to live the way that we're living. Absolutely not.
No, it's not functional or sustainable, or like it's not made for us.
Right. I need to be naked on an island somewhere eating grapes,
Absolutely.
just like,
That's exactly it. All
like
day, every day.
the land gives us everything we need.
I know.
If we just learn to utilize it in a way where everyone goes without need, then we wouldn't have so much of the shit we deal with right now. Even when people start talking about like criminal activity, right? Like stealing, theft, whatever. My mind immediately goes to, well, why are they stealing?
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't have the resources to get what they need. So they have to resort to doing this in order to get money for food or money to live. Like, you are not looking at the root, you are looking at the symptom. It's not their fault for stealing. Obviously, like, this is situational, but on a grand scale, it's like, why do people feel they have to resort to such activity in order to survive? That is a huge red flag. If you don't want the criminal activity, then provide for people so that they don't have to do that.
Oh my God, yes. I think about that with like, because you're in California. So in Canada right now, the drug problem is like the drugs and homelessness is it's insane. In California, I know is like it's just gone. Like LA is like just crazy right now. And when you're saying that, I'm thinking about, yeah, like why are all these people homeless? I don't think they chose to be. Yes, I do believe a lot of souls incarnate to experience that for some reason. That's part of their soul signature, 100%. But at the same time, it's like, well, how did they end up there, and what are they escaping from in the drugs, right? Like why do they have to escape? So like you said, the root, not the mediation or whatever they're trying to do in like just cleaning up the homeless communities. I'm like, you're not getting to the root or providing any mental health help in looking at the situation. You're not looking at the root. You're just looking at, oh, everyone's homeless. Well, why are they homeless?
Right. That the addiction problem, right? Like what, like you said, what wound is this addiction trying to put a Band-Aid on, And I think that's part of the reason too why astrology fascinates me, because you can see a lot of that.
Oh yeah, right away.
And you're just like, oh, so, this might be a thing because of this and this. And it's like, what? Like, so again, people have their own idea of astrology. I will stand firm on sharing that I don't believe that astrology is a belief. I look at it as a language. So when someone says they don't believe in astrology, I don't care. Like, that to me already is a statement that does not hold value to me, because you're already telling me that you've never even tried to understand what it is, because you still look at it as a belief system. It is a study. It is a language. You do not understand the language because you have not taken the time to decipher it. And that's okay. Not everyone is meant to, but that doesn't mean that you can now dilute what it has to offer just because you don't understand it. You're not going to go to France and say everyone is speaking gibberish just because you don't know French.
I don't believe in French.
Right. I don't believe in French. You all are just saying nothing. No, you don't understand what they're saying. So you have options. You either continue to not understand and maybe go somewhere else, or you can start to try and learn the language and see what is being said.
Yeah, I think that's so potent and such a good reminder. It's been coming up a lot lately, actually, of just this energy of like, it's not a belief system. It's not a religion. It's not any of that. It is a language of the universe. Just like, it's a little, in my heart, more complex than numerology, but numerology is a language of the universe. Human design is a language of the universe. It's not something you believe in. Love it. So I feel like you're a manifester. Are you a manifester?
Oh my gosh, thank you. But no, I am a projector.
I'm like, wait, okay. Because I'm a manifestor. I'm like, so many things. I'm like, I feel like you're just such a manifestor, but you're a projector.
Thank you. No, I am a 5/1 projector.
Okay.
And what's funny is when I started learning about the gates and stuff, I found like something about, oh, this gate tells you what you are like destined to do in this lifetime. And when I looked up what my gate was, it literally said, shock people into growth.
Love it.
And I
I
was
love
like,
it.
well, fuck, like at least I know I'm on the right path, you know? So we'll see what happens.
I love that so much because my first human design reading, so I'm a 6-2 manifester. So I'm like, I live on the roof. I'm just up in the sky, like, or I'm isolating completely. And my first reading, my friend Jessica was like, girl, like you are just meant to radically shake people awake, say things that trigger the fuck out of them, and like just be like 800 steps ahead of everyone. And I was like, oh, got it. And this was at the start of 2020. And she actually was like, you actually woke me up to everything that was going on with COVID. And she was a nurse and everything. And she was like, you actually woke me up. And I was like, I did? Like, it was me. I remember being shocked that that was that it was working. Do you know that to me just going
Yeah.
first was working? And I was like, okay, I'm just going to keep on doing this.
Yeah.
So I love that you had that, like, just shock people, because ditto, just shock people.
Yeah. And I think it's something we do without consciously knowing, you know, I
Yes.
don't think it's like, oh, when you sit down with me, I'll shock you into growth. I think it's just who is in bed, like the essence of you, the
Yeah.
essence of me, because I too, like, for a long time, I think I've really undermined my impact on people. Like, so, and again, this stems from all kinds of shit, right? And so to me, I'm like, they probably forgot about me. Like, they probably just,
No, you're not
and
forgettable.
oh, thank you. Uh, um, and correct. You know, I've learned this over time because that is my shadow story, right? Of I'm forgettable. People forget about me. I'm easy to neglect. I'm easy to abandon, you know, like all these different things that feed the narrative, which then feeds the self sabotage, the way I show up to keep that story going. And the universe has showed me so many times that is not true. But are you still like, are you going to accept that it's not true, or are you going to continue holding on to this limiting belief? And that is a thing, you know, like people would tell me, like, I'll just say shit, you know, like, and I'm not even thinking about what I'm saying. It's like such a off the cuff remark, or we're just in conversation, and something I'll say will stick with someone to the point where they create change and they'll tell me after the fact. And to me, I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, you know, like I just, and I think that is a great reminder for people who, like me, are so focused on what you do and attaching your value to what you do that you're missing it. Because a lot of the valuable things that you have to offer is who you are. You know, it's just in your being. It's not about your job. It's not about, like, yeah, the readings I know are helpful, but it's not the reading. It's me giving the reading. It's the way I phrase things. It's the way, it's the energy I give to you regardless. That's what's going to help things start setting into motion. And acknowledging that and accepting that instead of always feeling, and again, this goes into societal structures too, capitalism, all kinds of shit of just like, well, what do I do that's impactful? What you do that's impactful is showing up, you know, just like letting yourself be seen. And for a lot of people, that's scary.
Yep. Oh my
And
gosh. And I love that we're seeing this on the new moon Leo, of like, just
yes.
let yourself be seen. What a
Oh,
concept.
wow. It is today.
Yeah, it was this morning. So yeah,
Happy
like,
new moon.
happy new moon. It's my lunar return. So I'm just like when we went to record, I was like, oh, I love that we're recording this today. And
I
like,
know.
just in that energy, yeah, just being seen and just showing up. I always say, like, when you were saying that, like, it makes me think about, I'm like, just existing is
Mhm.
your job, right? Like, and that's super hard because I'm heavy earth too. And so you and I are over here like, what do we do? How is it practical? How is it
Right.
tangible? How is
How do
it
I
building?
monetize this?
Right? How do I let's make every single thing we do monetizable.
Right.
Right. Whereas the essence of me is like, no, just existing is your job, girl. Like, just
Yeah.
exist.
Which is literally too what it says for my projector, like human design. It's like, you're not supposed to work more than 4 hours, and you are not meant to do the day-to-day tasks. You are just meant to show up, give your gift of wisdom and insight, and go. And I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, I'm down with that. So like,
Let's make it happen.
and what's funny too, so I just started learning more about like progress charts and looking at my progress chart. And so I was looking at it the other day, and right now I'm a Leo moon.
I love Leo moon phases.
So I'm like, that kind of makes sense because
Hmm.
I've noticed like a heightened confidence. And I'm surrounded by Leo moons. So, and fire signs. And I know that they have been helping light that fire within me. And so when I started learning about that and seeing, I think I'm an Aquarius sun rising, Leo moon, like Pisces Venus. And I'm just like, oh, this tracks. Like this,
Hmm.
which then again goes into the conversation of so many people are running around like claiming their sun sign as their be all end all. And I'm like, there's so much more.
It's like millions of points. One of the astrologers I've learned from, he's brilliant. I don't know if you follow Rick Levine. He's like an old wizardy astrologer. He's been studying for years. So when I was studying with him, he was like, I've been studying astrology for 40 plus years and I will die knowing nothing. And I was like,
Yeah.
yeah, that tracks. That's it.
Yeah. Literally, you get, I think, we attach to certain things because it helps give us some sense of security or safety or whatever else. And so it's like, yeah, I'm a Capricorn, I'm going to die but it's like, well, in Vedic, I'm a
True
double
enough.
Sag Aries moon, completely different. And then depending
Completely.
on the progress chart, completely different. So
Yeah.
it's this dance of learning sort of your cosmic blueprint for who you are in this lifetime, but not getting so attached that you are now acting on autopilot based on who you think you're supposed to be, but just allowing yourself to be who you are. And because I have allowed myself to change or to be whoever feels authentic in the moment, I am aligning with the way my chart is also shifting. And I think that's beautiful too. I know there's a lot of debate between Vedic and Western astrology, and I think there's value and truth in all of them. I think they all represent something different. To me, Vedic is the astrology of your soul.
Mm.
My soul imprint might have that fire. I see it. When they were doing the flooring on Monday, my Aries moon came out real quick. I was like,
Mm.
y'all need to shut up, please. Um, but as Bruna in this lifetime, I feel like I am more my tropical placements. And so it's again bridging the gap between that, what is the energy shift between my Vedic and tropical chart? Where is there room to play with both? What is it teaching me to go from this sort of fiery outburst, quick, confident, non-committal, whatever it is, energy to incredibly committal, like very maybe sometimes even repressed and stubborn with emotion? Where can I find that bridge between to find the balance? So it's constantly a dance. Anytime you attach yourself too hard to something, you're missing it, you know?
Yeah. I
Fascinating.
love that. I love what the idea like that soul blueprint could be the Vedic, because I'm just thinking of my own and how triggered I get by it because I have a Cancer stellium and I'm like, fuck you. But it makes a lot of sense. And grounding into like that Western as just what I'm doing now. I love that theory. I'm gonna just like leave that for everyone to play with because I know everyone's now gonna go into their Vedic chart and be like, what the fuck is
Yeah.
she talking about?
Right.
It's a beautiful way of looking at it because I even think about the house systems. Like I read in full signs and I find that a very karmic lens. Whereas Placidus, I don't necessarily think it's not karmic, but I find it more of like a exalted lens sometimes. And I'm like just playing with that in my own feelings of being like, okay, which is true, both, right? So I
Yeah.
love that you're saying that, because I do also agree that it's everything all at once. And it's just your Vedic chart is going to confirm your tropical chart, and your tropical chart is going to confirm your Vedic chart, and it's going to confirm your progress chart. And you're going to be like, the themes are the same. They're just doing different things.
Right. And I think there's so much to shoot, what did you say? Oh, Placidus and whole sign. Yeah, I think again, because there is so many different ways to read charts, I think we're meant to read them differently. I don't believe, people get real, they feel some type of way, and I'm like, listen, we don't need astrology police. Like, I get it if there are just flagrantly like misinformation type of stuff, sure. But I do believe, whether it's astrology, whether it's tarot, whatever divination practice or study that you use to sort of reveal a message to someone, assuming that you're doing it with the highest intention and integrity, you are giving a message the way that you give it because you are meant to be received by certain people who gravitate towards the way you deliver a message. So the way you read a chart might be different than the way I read a chart, but that doesn't mean that either one is wrong. We just see different things. We interpret things differently. And I think the greatest tool any facilitator can give themselves is the freedom to sort of cultivate your own style and really listen to what you're feeling when you do that. Like the way you were saying, well, you know what? I feel more inclined to do whole sign. There's a reason for that. I too feel more inclined to do whole sign. For whatever reason, Placidus, great. There's someone out there who focuses on that. And they can, if that's something that's important to you, they would probably be a better reader for you. I don't feel inclined to do Placidus readings. So it's like really allowing yourself to see how you feel, owning that and using that as your compass is what's going to help you attract the people who are meant to receive what you have to give, because you are giving it in your specific way.
Yeah, it's exactly how I teach my certification. Is like, I'll show them, this is how I read. And every time I'm like, you have to follow your gut instinct. What planet calls to you? Like, what is speaking through you? For you, me, it's Pluto, it's Lilith. There's a very specific signature that comes through in my readings. But like, to my students, I'm like, you are going to have yours. And I am just here to help you as a catalyst to find that. And then within it, I'm like, okay, I read in whole signs, but here's your other options. And hey, I read in tropical, but there's also Vedic. And I present that all to them, saying the core is we're finding the karmic wounds, but outside of the core, you have to create your masterpiece of how you read, right? Like your artistry of how you read.
Yeah. If you could choose 3 planets to represent you, what would they be?
Okay. Pluto, number 1.
Yes, duh.
Lilith would be my asteroid girl forever and always. Ooh, oh my God, this is so hard. Venus would be my 3rd. Yeah. Yeah. Oof, that was so hard though. I feel like I've abandoned other ones, but those are my those are my choices. Ditto, same question.
I feel like it would be my T-square trifecta. I think Pluto, my moon, Pluto, the moon, and Venus. Honorary mentions would be Lilith and Saturn, because my chart is ruled by Saturn. Like Saturn is all up in everything for me.
I love Daddy Saturn.
We are learning to work together. I'm very impatient, and so he's been very adamant about teaching me patience. However, I feel like I embody Saturn. I think if someone was to sort of compare my energy, well, I don't know if that's true, because I think I also give off a lot of nurturing vibes, but I am like, I'm not the one, like if you want to stay stuck in your, and I'm not even going to say delusion, because I don't think delusion is bad, but if you want to stay stuck in whatever story you have held on to, I'm not going to be someone you like to be around. I challenge people. I hold people accountable. I am the bearer of truth, whatever that means, and it's just like, I hold on to that because I feel like that is the foundation of respect. Like, I cannot show you respect if I continue to play into whatever you are trying to do right now. I feel like I'm disrespecting you by doing that. So
Mm.
if you prefer to not, then I'm just like not the one. And that's very Saturn energy. That is that very daddy energy of like, sit your ass down right now because we're going to have a talk.
Mhm.
And you may not like what I'm about to hear, but I'm telling you this because I believe in you and I know that you're worth more and I know you're capable of more. And for whatever reason, you don't believe that about yourself. So I'm going to show you why you're wrong. And you can do with that information as you will. It's not for everybody,
I love it.
but for those who it's for.
It's good. It's good. And I love that because I love Saturn. Saturn kicks my ass. It's fine. We have fallen madly in love since my Saturn return. It's okay.
Yeah.
But like I feel that very deeply because ditto. Like I am not, and I say this actually in my waiver on my readings, like I'm not the like I will provoke you into change. There will be tears. There will be, not that I'm gonna make you cry intentionally, but we're gonna crack shit open. The Plutonian energy too. Like we're gonna crack shit open that you're gonna be like, fuck, all my pain points just flood to the surface. And the Saturnian energy is just like, we're just going to hold it, contain it. And you got to change. You got to change, right? The Pluto is like, let's crack it open. And then the Saturn's like, let's make the actual lifestyle changes and discipline that is needed for the Plutonian work to come in. So I love that so, so much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I really feel that.
I want to know what you would say about my chart.
Oh my gosh, we should just swap readings because I the whole time I'm like, I want to know, like, call me out on my Leo signature. You're gonna pull up and be like, this bitch, like
No,
this bitch.
I'm pretty sure anything I'd say, you'd be like, yeah, I know.
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, let's do it. I'm
Absolutely.
so
Let's do it.
curious.
It will
All
be
right.
so much fun. I love this. Okay.
Done.
Okay, so this has been so juicy and delicious, and I know all my people are going to want to stalk you and be obsessed with you because that is just who I call in.
Very
So
platonic.
right at 100%. So share with people A, where they can find you, and B, how they can work with you right now if you have any containers open. Shamelessly plug all your shit right here because I know everyone's sitting here being like, how the hell do I work with Bruna right now?
Thank you. Yeah, so you got options. You can do a shadow chart reading with me, which you can book through my website, brunanessif.com, brunanessif.com. I also have a newsletter that I put out a couple times a week. It's returntoself.me. You can subscribe for free, but the paid subscription, which is $5.55 a month, I do weekly oracle readings on Monday mornings. And so that's a energy check for the week. And within that, I also include astrological transits of the week and numerology. So you can kind of get an idea of what the energy is like for that week. And I just started a karmic connection series from Judy Hall's book. So I'm sort of sharing some of the insights from that book with my paid subscribers as well. So there's that. Card readings are a thing I do a lot of. I do daily channeled messages on my Instagram at Mystic Brew, BRU. And then you can also find the link to book a one-on-one on there with me. I offer 1 hour readings. From time to time, I'll do like a flash sale for 15-minute email readings if that's something you're interested in. And then I am hosting my next retreat in March of 2024 in Thailand. So we're going to be in Thailand for a week. We're going to spend 4 nights in Phuket and 2 nights at the Phi Phi Islands. And my retreats are mind, body, soul healing. This one will be a little more focused on body healing because I personally have dealt with a lot of body trauma and healing through that. And so I tend to then attract a lot of people who have also felt the same. So we'll be, grounding back into our body, healing any sort of disconnection with our body so that we can not just focus on the spiritual aspect, but also grounding back into this space so that we can show up. So if that's anything you're interested in, all and any information will be on my Instagram or my website. So you can find me there.
Love that. I love there's so many options. And I'll make sure that this is in the show notes for everyone listening so you can easily find all the magic. And your retreat sounds so juicy. And I love that like we're both just doing these like soul healing retreats right now.
Yeah.
And we started them around the same time. It's so
Oh, the
aligned.
parallels are not lost on me.
I know. Every time I'm like, even when we're talking about past lives, we might have to do another podcast where we just talk about past lives. Because when we were talking about that stuff, I was like, this girl and I have been together
I
before.
know. You need to find it in our charts.
I know. We'll go in. We'll find all the good
No,
juicy
my
stuff.
vertex is in Leo.
Maybe it's just linked up with something in there. And you have something in Virgo too, right?
My
You do?
south node.
Your south node's probably like partying with my Virgo stellium. So we're
Like,
gonna find all the
remember
good things.
us? We were the ones that
No.
got burned. It's fine. We're back.
Right? We're fine. We're fine. We're okay.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
back.
I'm
That's
gonna share
better.
everything. Thank you for your energy, your knowledge, just coming on here and showing up and like existing. That's
Thank you for
appreciate that.
creating the space. It's an
Always.
honor to be here.
Always, always. All right. So, for everyone listening, again, I will link everything that you need to know in the show notes and, go connect, listen in. The daily card pulls are so juicy. Every time I'm like, damn, like, how you tapping right into what I'm feeling right now? So, just go
I
follow
be
Bruna.
knowing. It's my
Oh,
favorite thing.
it's so good. So, they're so, so good. So, highly suggest for everyone listening. All right, my loves.